Answered the door, and the little girl, 7 or 8 years old, standing there bleeding.
Coming up on News 4 in prime time, a 7-year-old girl is a lone survivor of a plane crash that killed her entire family. The incredible journey to find help. Plus, new information tonight regarding what may have caused AirAsia Flight 8501 to crash into the ocean. What investigators found that's raising even more questions. News 4 in prime time starts right now.
You're watching News 4 in prime time on your side in high definition.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. I'm Dylan Kendrick. Important new clues have emerged in the investigation of what happened to AirAsia Flight 8501 when it went missing over the Java Sea. NBC's Kelly Kobiea has details from Indonesia.
The searchers struggled against the weather and high waves again today as they tried to operate a couple of underwater cameras, trying to get a better look at these two large objects spotted by sonar on the sea floor. One of them 30 feet long and 15 feet wide.
As search crews bring more bodies to shore, ships at the wreckage site investigate the most promising clue yet. 90 feet below the sea surface, two large objects. The head of Indonesian Search and Rescue told reporters this morning, "I can confirm that this is part of the AirAsia aircraft we've been looking for." Investigators believe AirAsia 8501 may have stalled mid-flight in bad weather and fallen out of the sky. They found an inflatable evacuation slide and an emergency exit door. Clues some analysts think could point to another theory. The pilot landed the plane on the water and passengers were unable to get out before it sank.
I find it very unlikely that this crew was intentionally trying to put the airplane down on the water from high altitude. Especially if it's a loss of control, it's going to be a high speed or high energy impact.
On Friday, the second of many funerals, AirAsia founder Tony Fernandez helped the family bury flight attendant Karonisa Fauci. At this home in Surabaya, they're planning more funerals. Agung Daramono lost his brother, sister-in-law, mother, and 9-year-old niece.
Do you hope to hear something soon?
He told me he's optimistic they'll find the bodies, but it's in God's hands.
His sister-in-law was the first victim to be identified from the plane crash. She was laid to rest on Thursday. Back to you.
A 7-year-old girl was the lone survivor of a small plane crash in Kentucky on Friday night. Authorities say the crash killed her parents, sister, and cousin. The family was flying from Key West, Florida to Mount Vernon, Illinois, and authorities say the plane reported having engine trouble over western Kentucky and crashed in a heavily wooded area. Somehow, the 7-year-old girl managed to get out of the plane and walk nearly a mile through the woods to a house where she reported the crash.
Answered the door, and the little girl, 7 or 8 years old, standing there bleeding, legs and all scratched up, arms scratched up, bloody nose, crying, and she said her mom and dad were dead and that she had been in a plane crash.
It's a miracle that she survived, but also the fact that she, didn't, succumb to exposure or hypothermia and was able to have the sensibilities to try to get help in a place that she's never been.
Now, Kentucky State Police say the girl was in emotional distress and taken to a hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. Well, Italian firefighters and investigators boarded the charred Norman Atlantic ferry today to search for more bodies. Parts of the ferry, which is now docked in the Italian city of Brindisi, are still burning following a deadly blaze that has already killed 11 people. Greece say 19 people are still unaccounted for after the fire broke out on Sunday as the ferry traveled from Greece to Italy. Italy says 477 passengers and crew were rescued from the burning ferry, most by helicopters operating in gale force winds. Well, we had a clear day out there today. We have high pressure really keeping us dry for the past couple of days. Let's take a look at your first forecast out there. Currently sitting into the mid 40s. Winds not too much of a factor, but that humidity on up to 34% tonight. Into the upper to mid 30s actually for northern Nevada right now. Winnemucca 39, 35 for Elko, and then sitting at right at that 39-degree mark for both Eureka and Ely. Of course, a lot warmer down south in Las Vegas, currently sitting at 51 degrees. Now, satellite and radar shows you we're clear of any cloud coverage, and that is thanks to a very strong, powerful area of high pressure out there, but we do have some clouds moving into your forecast. I'll talk a little bit more about that in your full 7-day forecast coming up in just a little bit. Well, Sparks police are looking for a male suspect who allegedly strangled a woman earlier this morning. Now, Sparks police say they responded to a fight call around 4 a.m. The victim then told police that a Hispanic male approached her while she was walking down Audi Boulevard. Now, according to the police, the suspect was making crude and sexual comments to the victim. The victim told the police that after she refused the man, he began to strangle her. Once police arrived on scene, the suspect had fled west towards El Rancho. Now, the male suspect is described as Hispanic male in his mid-20s with a thin mustache. He was also reported to be wearing a dark-colored trench coat. Now, if you have any information, you are asked to contact Sparks Police or Secret Witness. Well, hundreds of uniformed police officers from across the country headed to a funeral home in Brooklyn today for the wake of a New York City police officer killed in an ambush shooting last month. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio and Police Commissioner William Bratton attended the wake for Officer Wen-Jon Liu. Before the wake, Commissioner Bratton wrote a memo to officers urging them to refrain from making political statements at that wake. He was referring to the hundreds of officers who turned their backs to TV monitors last week showing Mayor de Blasio speaking at Officer Rafael Ramos's funeral. Police union leaders have accused de Blasio of contributing to a climate of mistrust towards police while anti-police protests were taking place. Liu's funeral is set for Sunday. Well, two more members of the Washoe County Sheriff's Office Honor Guard will travel to New York this weekend to the funeral for Wen-Jon Liu. Sergeant Mark Bello and Deputy Corey Solferino, along with his K-9 partner Akeem, will attend Liu's funeral thanks to the generosity of JetBlue. Now, law enforcement officers from across the country will attend services, while in New York, Bello and Solferino will be hosted at the home of a retired law enforcement detective from the area. Well, coming up next on News 4 in prime time, the defense request to postpone and relocate Boston Marathon bombing suspect Dzhokhar Zarnev has been denied. When and where the trial will proceed. And a London nurse has been diagnosed with Ebola. The update on her condition is coming up next. News 4 in prime time. We'll be right back.